Northeast corner of the land of enchantment.
It's Friday.
The land of EWTN all across the Lone Star State.
It's GRN Alive.
Bringing you faith, fun, and facts.
Live from the studios of the Guadalupe Radio Network.
Join us on the show. Call
877-757-9424.
877-757-9424.
And good morning. It is Friday, a beautiful day. I love that opener. I love that, I guess it's a British accent. I've got a British wife. She's from Northern Ireland. That's not her, but it reminds me of that beautiful accent there. Hey, good to have you with us. This is a splendid, beautiful, awesome day to be alive, to be a Catholic. And thanks so much for joining us today for GRN Alive Friday. It is Friday of the third week of Easter, so happy Easter to you. It's also the feast of St. Joseph the Worker, May 1st, and I have and by the way, Sissel, good morning. How are you? Good to see you.
Good morning. I'm doing well.
Sissel is here with us, and she's been working on a project all week for her school. And Diane Xavier is here. I was just telling Diane does such a great job on social media.
She does.
We are on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter as well. She puts up a lot of images, and so if you are able, and I know fewer people are driving around these days than typical. It's kind of weird, actually. There's not as much traffic, and see, if you want to sit in front of your computer and watch the show and not just listen to it, you can do that. Just the tagline or the handle or whatever it is, GRN Online. I have a little prayer. It's kind of like a memorare to St. Joseph that I came across that I want to pray here at the beginning. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Remember, most pure spouse of Mary, ever Virgin, my loving protector, St. Joseph, that no one ever had recourse to your protection or asked for your aid without obtaining relief. Confiding, therefore, in your goodness, I come before you and humbly implore you, despise not my petitions, foster Father of the Redeemer, but graciously receive them. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Doesn't that sound like the memorare, but just kind of the...
It does. When he started praying it, I was like, wait.
That sounds familiar.
Hold on a second.
All right, today's also the day, and I know you know this, they're talking about this on just about every show on Catholic radio. It's the day that our country and other parts of the world, like Canada are going to be reconsecrated to Our Lady, our Blessed Virgin Mother, as Mother of the Church. And I'll tell you more about that in a second, because you can listen to the radio and participate that later on today. And all the dioceses, I think, across the country are doing something as well. And let's see, speaking of social media, we are unveiling, and I feel a little guilty about talking about this, and I'll tell you why, but we have a brand new website. Woo. Okay, now the URL is the same, grnonline.com, but if you go there, after the show, don't go there yet. If you go there after the show and check it out, Joe McLean has been tirelessly working on this, literally for months, and it's ready for you to visit. Now, when you get there, you're going to see something pop up on the top left of the screen, and it's going to say, can we access your location? Now, of course, you don't have to say yes, but if you say yes, you don't have to say it. You click it. You can say it as you click it if you want, but if you give them permission, then it's going to always kind of revert to your local station. Okay, so if you're in D.C. or Alabama, you're going to get information locally. Okay, if you don't, then you're going to get network information. So we recommend you do that. But if you don't want to, that's okay. I feel guilty because Joe has given me permission to kind of make the big announcement, rather than holding on to it till Monday.
And you did not do a thing.
I didn't do a thing. I did not do one thing. I looked at it, and I gave a little bit of feedback, but Joe did a great job on it. And I'm sure there maybe were some others that helped him as well. But anyways, grnonline.com is the website. You're also going to hear about a Guadalupe Radio Network online auction very soon. Okay, this is going to be pretty exciting. We've never done this before. A lot of auction items, religious art and jewelry, along with some sports memorabilia. And I was kind of quizzing Diane before the show. Diane's a big sports fan. Okay, Dr. Malloy, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning.
I'll ask you this question, okay? I'm going to put you on the spot. Sports question, okay? Roger Staubach, right?
Sure.
Okay, so he was a quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys for a number of years, won 2 Super Bowls. And we're going to go, it looks like we're going to get an autographed football by Roger Staubach for this auction. So, but what's the connection between him and the month of May?
Well, he is Catholic, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Catholic.
Is
And
the-
do
they're
you know
very-
about the Hail Mary Pass? Are you familiar with that?
Of course, of course. I'm from Notre Dame. I should
Oh
know.
yeah, of course. But yeah, Hail Mary Pass, one of the most famous plays in the history of the NFL. And so, anyways, so
What year was that?
72, 71
See, I was
against
too young.
Minnesota Vikings.
I was too young.
Yeah. I was still maybe in diapers. I'm not sure. But we also have.
I remember it.
You remember the? Yeah,
Yes,
no, you
exactly.
don't. You remember by watching it on YouTube. Let's see, crucifixes and religious art and all kinds of great stuff. And so, anyways, the more information, I'm sure Joe will talk about it because Joe's organizing that as well. Joe is just doing a lot of work for the GRN. We all are. All right, today, May 1st, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central. EWTN is going to be airing the consecration of our country to the Blessed Virgin Mary as Mother of the Church with Los Angeles Archbishop Jose Gomez. And there are going to be similar consecrations in just about all the dioceses and archdioceses across the country today. And Joe Schuler from our DC office said that Archbishop Gregory is going to live stream a consecration from the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception today at 3 o'clock Eastern for those who want to watch that, especially if you're in the D.C. area, Virginia, and that's it's a pretty special day. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's awesome.
Yeah, very nice. All right.
The Canadians too, right?
Yeah, Canada. Yeah. So, anyways, it's pretty special. We talked a little bit about it last week as well, what exactly a reconsecration means, what happens, and but it's a special day for sure.
This is going to be the third time, right? And now our guest is speaking on this, right?
No, not specifically. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think this is the third time. There was once early, and then there was another one, I think, under Pius XI.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
And then, I'm getting this. There's one in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Early on, and
Okay.
then we I believe we asked under one of the popes in the middle 20th century, and then now again.
Okay. But it's pretty rare if it's only happened 3 times.
It's not too
still-
often.
Yeah, pretty rare. All right. I also want to tell you there's a big Catholic family conference that's going on beginning tonight and all day tomorrow. And it's going to start with a mass this evening celebrated by Bishop Joseph Strickland, who was a guest on Joe's show this last Monday, followed by a special consecration by Bishop Strickland. Continues tomorrow with talks by a whole bunch of speakers. Now, this cool thing about these conferences these days is that you don't have to have everybody in one location, so you can get a lot more speakers. I mean, Dr. Scott Hahn, Lila Rose, Father John Paul Mary from EWTN, Stephanie Gray, Matt Fradd, and a gentleman who we're going to speak to at the end of the hour, Matt Walsh. I don't know if you've heard of Matt Walsh or not.
No.
He's kind of a rising star. He's a Catholic gentleman, talks a lot about politics and culture, and has a pretty big presence on social media. And he and Dr. Janet Smith tomorrow are going to have a panel discussion called Combating the Culture. So if you want to find out about this conference, go to CatholicFamilyConference.com. And Matt Walsh will join us at the end of the show. And then after Sissel's newscast, we're going to be joined via phone with Dr. Matthew Bunson. He is Executive Director of EWTN News, and we're going to talk about what is pretty much on everybody's mind these days, and that is the opening up of masses and public celebration of masses, I should say. In a lot of dioceses, they're all starting to, kind of at least phase things in. And also the kind of the tension between religious liberty and some of the restrictions that many governors and city and civil authorities are putting on. And some of them are pretty draconian, I must say. I got a few examples of states that are really putting the clamps on things. They're allowing you to buy dog food and alcohol, but no masses. I mean, some of it doesn't make sense. And so Dr. Bunson's going to weigh in on that. And so we always enjoy your participation. I'm not just talking about Dr. Chris Malloy. I'm talking about you, dear listener, 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424. Call us and let us know what's on your mind. And Sissel, as always, has been digging up some news stories. So, Sissel, what's in the news?
Well, first off, Joe Biden has officially come out and is categorically denying the sexual assault allegations that have happened during his presidential campaign by a former Senate aide, Tara Reid. So he's come forth and he's denied the allegation. And he was originally not going to say anything about it, but he decided he had to, given the circumstances now where he's running. So then also, like you mentioned, states are slowly starting to phase things in, Texas being one of them. So masses are starting to open up. Public masses are starting to happen again. Limited capacity again. Kind of, I think the 25% is what's happening in our area here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But several other states are also opening up as well, slowly but surely. So those include Minnesota, Iowa, Idaho, Georgia, Montana. These are not like heavily populated states. Texas is the most populated state that this is happening in. But then, interestingly, Dave, you sent me this story this morning, which I thought was kind of interesting. So in Michigan, there was a protest because they've had a stay-at-home order for quite a while, like everyone else. And apparently there was some talk about it being extended a little bit more. It was supposed to come out this last weekend. And a protest that wasn't just a protest with signs. This was a protest with guns.
Yeah.
And it got a little bit interesting.
Well, they might have open carry there. I don't know.
Yeah.
In Texas, you have open carry, so you can walk around with a
gun.
Sure.
It's just a little interesting to do at a protest, asking for basically demanding that the stay-at-home order be done, and they're allowed to, go out and do things again. So, yeah.
What came of it?
Well, I think they eventually dispersed. And they were there, but again, I don't know if it was illegal or not. I know in Texas, you can go to a protest, you can have a gun, you can have anything you want.
Not familiar enough with Michigan's gun laws,
but I will say, and I don't. Even in the Dallas and Fort Worth diocese, they have very different policies. Fort Worth has opened up masses on a limited basis, like you say, 25%. We belong to an ordinariate parish, and so we're not really in a diocese like that.
I'll be there this Sunday.
Yeah, the ordinariate opened it up on Thursday, and my wife, God bless her, as soon as she got the email that day, on Thursday they had a mass, and she was there.
That's awesome.
And I think that's we really can. It's kind of a gut check. It's like, how much do we love the Eucharist? Like, how excited do you get to get back? And I know a lot of people listening right now are in states where it's not going to be available. It's not going to be available in the Dallas diocese this weekend, but in Fort Worth it will.
Confessions and something else.
And weddings, funerals are starting to be opened up. But of course, social distancing and things
adoration,
like that.
That's what it is.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, adoration as well. So, all right, if you want to talk about what's going on in your state, your diocese, Dr. Matthew Bunson's going to join us in just a moment as well. But there is some tension with religious liberty issues. I'm going to give you a few examples when we have Dr. Bunson on to show you that in some cases it just doesn't make sense what some of these civil authorities are classifying as essential and non-essential. But more on that in just a minute. Quick break, and we'll get Dr. Matthew Bunson on the phone and talk to him and hopefully talk to you as well. 877-757-9424.
Why did we choose Our Lady of Guadalupe as the patroness of the Guadalupe Radio Network? Nearly 500 years ago, the greatest evangelization movement in the history of the Americas occurred when Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared to Juan Diego. It was the beginning of the greatest mass conversion in religious history. Would you agree that today we are in need of a similar renewal in our culture where godlessness is becoming mainstream? That is why we dedicated our radio network to Our Lady of Guadalupe. Radio is the most powerful and intimate tool of evangelization. Catholic radio not only provides us evangelization, but it does so in an exciting and joyful way. We, together with you, our GRN family, are working to ensure that these radio waves continue to go out to millions of souls in order to be a great source of comfort, hope, and consolation. This is Len Oswald, president of the GRN, with your GRN Family Minute.
All right, welcome back. This is GRN Alive Friday edition. It is now 13 minutes after the hour. Dave Palmer and Dr. Chris Malloy from the University of Dallas joins us every week. We really appreciate him being here. Cecil Anderson and also Diane Xavier, the silent one of the show, but she does a lot behind the scenes. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. All right, it's what, if you're Catholic, it's on your mind today. You're either thinking, I'm going to be able to finally get back to public participation in the Mass, or I can't wait till my diocese or archdiocese allows us to do so. And I think we got the perfect guest to join us today, Dr. Matthew Bunson, Executive Director of EWTN News, joining us via phone, very much social distancing with us this morning. Dr. Bunson, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. Greetings from Washington, D.C. So, yes, I think we're pretty well socially distant.
Yeah, that's right. No face mask necessary. All right, so political leaders are kind of opening up economies. Non-essential businesses can operate. Of course, they all have different definitions of what is essential and non-essential. Church leaders are slowly opening up public participation of the sacraments. To provide for the spiritual well-being of their flocks. The president met with 600 religious leaders the other day via conference call. And I wanted, as kind of a starting point, Dr. Bunson, to talk about an article that was published in the National Catholic Register by Father Roger Landry. It was called, "It's Time to Treat the Church's Essential Services as Essential." It says, "What God provides humanity through the church is as essential a service as ever." Some of these states we know are saying alcohol and dog food, and in some cases abortions are essential, but the Eucharist is not. And that creates a little tension. So what's your take on all this?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And Father Roger Landry, who's one of those great voices that we have today of prudence, he's not somebody, well, one would never use the term bomb thrower with Father Roger. And I say that because it's an important distinction to make, because we've had a lot of concern, a lot of hyperbole surrounding this. And one of the points he's making, and I think it's the key one, is that the churches of the United States and all religious institutions around the United States really need to be considered essential services. And to your point, we have seen abortion clinics set aside as essential services. We've seen pot stores, in other words, a place where you can go and buy marijuana. Liquor stores are considered essential services. So in other words, what is essential for the good ordering of society? Well, I think it's very clear that religious institutions need to be considered essential services, and then to work with them more closely than I think has been the case in this COVID-19 pandemic in order to help people get through it.
Yeah, there's another priest, Father Michael Orsi, wrote an article called "It's Time to Put Abusive Government Power into Lockdown." And I'm just going to read a couple sentences here, and then you can comment on that, on whether or not this is just kind of the same old, just a new chapter of the same book. He says, "Today's danger is especially great for people of faith. The condition of religious institutions in many ways is already perilous. Since well before the pandemic, we've been witnessing a steady erosion of First Amendment religious protections, everything from trying to make orders of nuns pay for birth control to forcing Christian social services agencies to approve adoptions for same-sex couples, and a whole lot more." So do you see this as something unique, or maybe just another sign of the same problem of the erosion of religious liberties?
Well, I think we have to look at it region by region in the United States. But one of the concerns that has emerged right from the very beginning of this is that is this crisis being used as a means to push religion further out of the public square? And one of the issues that we have to look at is, and to ask public servants, why exactly were churches not considered essential services from the very beginning? And it's a question that isn't unique to the United States. In Italy, for example, the government of the Conte government, which is beginning to ease restrictions on its own severe lockdown across the country, somehow did not include public masses, the opening of churches again, in the restoration of what it considered to be the next stage for essential services. So if we're looking at this kind of relentless push that we see from some quarters in the United States and Europe, to remove the influence of religion at large, but in particular the Christian faith, this pandemic, I think, has been very revealing and also very disturbing.
Mm-hmm, sure, for sure. Dr. Matthew Bunson joining us here on GRN Live, 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424. I told you Dr. Chris Malloy, also from the University of Dallas, joining us as well. And I've got a few examples. I think some of the more egregious
let's see
ones.
the examples, yeah.
And Dr. Bunson, you can think of some others. I'll tell you one of the ones that I find very disturbing. I don't know if you've heard about this, Dr. Bunson. The city of Knoxville, Tennessee, is banning churches from serving communion. Knox County, Tennessee, which includes the city of Knoxville, has told businesses to open up on May 1st, but churches are forbidden from serving communion because it's not deemed as, quote, core worship. I mean, when the Eucharist is not deemed as core worship, that is just craziness. One other example, and then I'll let you guys comment on this. California Governor Gavin Newsom, this week on Tuesday, released his proposal for resuming normal life following the COVID-19 outbreak, a 4-stage plan that would leave churches closed for months. Okay, so he's saying, hey, we're going to open up. Now, to be fair, he did close beaches. Today he's closed all the beaches. Which we'll see how that goes. But he's saying now for months the churches may be closed. Doesn't seem to be fair. And there are other examples. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, please.
Here's a question. There are 2 great articles on this if you want, like today. One treats the abstract issues, and that's Father Thomas Joseph White. He's a great theologian, and it's in the public discourse. There's another one by Ed Feser, who's a great philosopher. And he's on the concrete, and he just basically says burden of proof is on those who want the lockdown because it's a severe measure. They might be right, but burden of proof is on them. And that's one question a lot of us have is, where's the argument?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where are the numbers? But Father White makes a good abstract case, and I just want to bring this in, not as a devil's advocate so much, but he says, look, in terms of this essential, non-essential, he compares 2 weeks of going without food and water and 2 weeks of going without the Eucharist.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know what the result is going to be.
Right.
So we know what's the better good, but there is this question about like fundamental human daily needs. We need God absolutely every single day, moment, but we also need food. And so there's a kind of a nature grace issue here. That doesn't settle the particular question here of like what Tennessee did, but that's just something I think we Catholics need to keep in mind is there is the food and human nature needs.
Yeah. Dr. Bunson, what do you think?
Well, I agree with that. I think we can go back to the question of what is essential and non-essential. And one of the very strong arguments that I thought that Bishop Baldacchino of Las Cruces has made as he has pushed forward in New Mexico to resume not just public masses, but also the sacraments, is that we have seen in these last weeks severe social problems developing. We have seen massive increases in divorces and marriages breaking up. We have seen increases in abuse, domestic violence. We've seen increases in addictive behavior from chemicals and alcohol and pornography. If there was ever a time where we needed the churches to be very present in the lives of people, it's right now. And so his argument is that by having these public masses, by continuing to make the sacraments available to people in a prudent way, and that I think is one of the keys here, we can actually help people get through this in a way that they otherwise might not. That word prudence, though, I mean, this is the time also for the practice of the virtues.
Yeah.
And to exist prudently, to fulfill these functions prudently. And we can certainly find ways as a church to cooperate fully with civil authorities, while at the same time exercising our essential ministries. Father Landry made the point that we have churches that are locked, shuttered, and kept away from our faithful, while the nearby parish hall is still being used and filled with people who need food and other things. That makes absolutely no sense to a lot of people.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a paragraph. I think this is from Father Landry's article, and it goes right along with what you're saying, Dr. Bunson. And before I read this, I just want to invite anybody listening, if you have a question or a comment, Dr. Matthew Bunson joining us from EWTN News. 877-757-9424 is the phone number, and he says that's the lesson that is unwittingly taught when the church in some locales has made the decision to lock churches and forbid all access to the sacraments except for priests, even as such decisions were not required by public mandates. Sacramental life cannot be considered essential when the church acts as if it were not needed, even in a crisis, as if live-streamed masses, spiritual communions, acts of perfect contrition, and the availability of plenary indulgences are adequate substitutes. I think that's from Father Landry's article, and that's kind of along with what you're saying, is some people are getting frustrated because they're really eager, which is a good thing. People are desiring the sacraments and participation in public participation in the sacraments.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And one of the things that we have seen that has vexed a lot of Catholics is the willingness of bishops in some places to go even beyond the requirements of the state or civil and local authorities, and actually locking churches and putting police cars in front of churches. Now, each decision has to be made by a bishop according to his own good prudential judgment, in consultation with his own people and with authorities. But it's been frustrating to a number of people in Italy, I know, that the Italian bishops were so readily in agreement to shut and lock the churches, to the point now that we have sort of a pushback. And we're seeing the Italian Bishops' Conference, called the CEI, really expressing deep frustrations that as we're coming out of this now, not only were we not deemed an essential service going into this crisis, but we're not even remotely deemed an essential service coming out of the crisis.
Yeah, amazing. Are you familiar with the call that President Trump had with about 600 religious leaders, including Cardinal Timothy Dolan in New York, Cardinal Sean O'Malley of Boston, Archbishop Jose Gomez of Los Angeles? I think it happened within the last week. Did you hear? Did you guys cover that, or any news from that call?
Yes, we did.
What came out of that call?
Well, aside from President Trump describing himself as, quote, the greatest president in the history of the Catholic Church, which would be unsurprising for the president to say that, he was stressing the importance of faith in the lives of people. And what I found actually more significant in a way were the recent statements by Attorney General Barr. In a call just last week, for example, he was stressing again the importance of religions, of religious institutions, of faith communities, as he puts it, in the lives of Americans. He has also issued a special notification or a memo to the Justice Department to be on the lookout, to be very conscious of possible threats to religious liberty.
Yeah,
that if there are special or undue burdens being placed on churches, that has to be dealt with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just read an article about the call with Trump and these religious leaders, and the writer said Trump kept going back to the pro-life cause, which, on one hand, it's great. This person said the president's most frequented theme in his opening remarks was that of his commitment to the pro-life cause, saying that it has, quote, been at a level that no other president has seen before, according to everybody, end quote. He said Democrats, quote, want abortion, and they want it now, and they want it to go up to the end of the 9th month and beyond, end quote. And it's kind of interesting because oftentimes we've been lamenting that presidents don't talk about abortion enough, but it's also, I guess, pleasantly ironic that he's inserting a lot of pro-life language in his conversation with the bishops. Any comments on that?
Yes. Well, we have seen that President Trump, especially from the 2016 campaign, and now throughout his presidency, has been trying to deliver on some of the key promises that he made to the pro-life movement. And whatever quibbles one might have on how effective some of that has been, it's unquestionable that he has tried to deliver on a number of key campaign promises. I think, for example, of his pledge for pro-life justices, pro-life judges, and efforts to do away with things like the Mexico City policy bans and things like that. So he sees this as essential, one of the pillars of his reelection. And we've been doing polling at EWTN News with Real Clear Opinion Research. In February, released our second poll. And what we have found consistently is that Trump is definitely seen among Catholics as very committed to the pro-life cause. And the group that he was talking to this last week and he has been talking over the previous weeks is that core. It's a group of about 18% of all Catholics who really consider themselves to be active, or we refer to them as devout, for want of a better term. They support President Trump in significantly higher numbers than the rest of the Catholic population. So he sees this as crucial to his reelection in exactly the same way that group was also absolutely vital for his election in the first place.
Yeah. One other thing, and I just want to mention this, we don't have to discuss it because it's a little bit off the beaten path, but I thought it was interesting in this talk, and I'm sure, Dr. Bunson, you're aware of this. He highlighted his opposition to the Johnson Amendment, which prevents tax-exempt institutions from endorsing or opposing political candidates. He describes this as very vicious, adding that, quote, "I got rid of it so you can express your views very strongly," end quote. And I don't know quite what to make of that. It's kind of like, because I think it's still the law, isn't it? The Johnson Amendment, where nonprofit agencies cannot be political. Is he saying, yeah, I'm not going to enforce that, or what?
Well, from the start, he has been of the opinion that houses of worship should have greater latitude in weighing in on politics. That's, I expect, something that the courts will eventually adjudicate. But he sees that, I think, as the right and privilege of religious groups to speak freely in the political space. Clearly, it's a gesture to, in particular, evangelicals, who at times can blur the pulpit. And we have seen at the same time as well some of the more progressive or left-leaning churches also weighing in on political matters. So I think in some ways Trump is simply trying to codify what has been practiced for a long time. But I think from the Catholic standpoint, we have to be very leery about leaning in too far into politics, where we're actually asking people or telling people who to vote for. That's something that we don't do. Certainly at EWTN we don't. But at the same time, we do have an obligation to inform people of the issues that are most pressing in the country. And there's no question that the pro-life cause, the issues that emerge for the culture of life versus the culture of death, have to weigh very, very significantly in the mind of any voter who's trying to form their conscience properly.
This is the heart. This is the heart of the matter, because absolutely we can't say vote for this person, don't vote for that person, but the principles, and they're so confused. I mean, they're just diffused because progressives bring up maybe even good causes, but they're so minor compared to the crucial ones on the natural law. Right? I mean, they don't weigh in the balance, and some of them are important ones, and then some of them are just prudential. Like, I mean, should we do this or that regarding immigration? That could be a prudential difference. How about minimum wage? These are prudential. You can have an argument about them.
Yeah, but not about abortion or some of these other essential
that's
ones.
right.
Talking about essential
True
and
marriage.
non-essential. Let me, because we only have a few more minutes with Dr. Bunson. I want to mention also real quickly that President Trump also went on Twitter on Saturday, I guess a few days ago, saying that he was going to be tuning in to the live-streamed Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral on Sunday. So one person, Patrick Coffin, has already predicted that Trump's going to become Catholic. Of course, he's got a Catholic wife, and so you never know. We'll see. Dr. Bunson, the time remaining, I want to ask you about your general feeling about, and I know every diocese and archdiocese is doing things differently. Even here in North Texas, Dallas and Fort Worth have very, very different policies as far as phasing in public participation in the sacraments. But any news on that, a general trend, or what any particular diocese or archdiocese that are doing things a little bit out of the ordinary, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the way to look at it is it's likely going to be a threefold or three channels of process. We're going to have those dioceses, as we have seen in Las Cruces, for example, and a few other places, where the bishops are going to be moving pretty quickly, or as quickly as possible, but again, prudently, to resume public masses and the public celebration of the sacraments, which I think is a very good thing, if it's the time and if it's certainly appropriate and wise to do so. Then we're going to have some places, as we have seen, for example, in New Jersey, where Cardinal Tobin has made it very clear that he does not feel that the situation there is opportune for resuming public masses, because New Jersey is one of those epicenters of the pandemic. But then we're going to have a few places, and we're already seeing it in Georgia, I think in places like Florida, and I know even in parts of Texas, where local authorities or state authorities are going to be loosening restrictions, but the church, local church leaders, local bishops will decide we're not there yet for our flock. So it's going to be, at least if you look at a map, it's going to look uneven. But in much the same way that the way this pandemic has played out, it's very uneven across the country, and decisions are going to have to be made regionally, diocese by diocese, and sometimes even more local than that. I think this is an important moment for subsidiarity in the church to weigh in.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's been a lot of pushback. Look what's happening in Michigan yesterday, as Sissel announced in her news. I don't know if you heard that or not, Dr. Bunsen, about I think you've heard about this, the people that stormed the State House in Michigan against the governor. That was against the civil authorities. Yeah, and I'm just going to ask you about the pushback against for example, Catholics in the city of Chicago have formed an organization called the St. Charles Borromeo Society for the purpose of getting churches in their archdiocese to reopen their doors. They've launched a website. I think, obviously, we don't want to take militant actions or demand things of our bishops, and we want to respect them. But are you seeing organizations popping up, at least if nothing else, prayerfully asking their bishops to maybe move a little faster?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That Catholics are very frustrated. We all miss the Eucharist, but at the same time, we have to keep going back to that application of the virtue of prudence.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I think we also have to practice the cardinal virtue of temperance and fortitude. That we need to have patience while we're dealing with this, and listen to our shepherds. I think this is not a time to simply abandon our trust in the church. We're coming up on the 100th anniversary of the canonization of Joan of Arc in 1920. And she was somebody who died proclaiming Christ in his church. And I think this now more than ever, we need to exercise that patience and love for the church and know that we are going to get through this at some point. It's only a question of when.
Amen. And then be wary of another time around.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
we do want to be wary of what if there's some weird, what do you call, opportunism that's being taken.
Well, I've heard somebody say, we don't want the churches to close when somebody sneezes. I mean, is this going to become a trend?
Well, that's right.
That every time there's even a serious flu, we got to, civil authorities close everything down. I think that's my biggest concern. I can handle what's going on now, but I don't want this to become the trend. Dr. Bunsen,
and we need to be very conscious of our rights under the Constitution.
Yes.
And to defend our rights of religious liberty and freedom of worship and freedom of religion aggressively and with the full weight of our rights as believers.
Amen. Dr. Bunsen, I know there's EWTNnews.com. Any other websites where you can direct people to get up-to-date news on what's going on in the church?
Well, EWTNnews.com is a great place to go. We also have, of course, NCRegister.com for the National Catholic Register, CatholicNewsAgency.com for CNA. But I'd send everyone to EWTNnews.com.
All right. Well, you just did that. Thanks so much for your time this morning. It's been an interesting conversation. I appreciate it very much. Have a great weekend.
You too. A privilege to be with you. Be safe.
Thanks so much. All right, that was fun. Dr. Bunsen there from EWTN News. I know you got a split.
I got to run.
Last little pearls of wisdom before we go to break.
No, I liked what Dr. Bunsen had to say.
Yeah.
I do think, though, we need to be. I don't think there's a conspiracy on this one, but the potential. Just think about the potential.
That's where I am. That's okay if we do this one time, and if there's another huge one, I'm not sure this was huge or not. I think the debate is open for that, but I just don't want next time serious flu, a lot of flu deaths, and people are like, oh my gosh, let's no longer shake hands.
And let's look at the issues like he's saying depression, suicidal ideation.
Yeah,
there's a lot of issues that happen in the wake of this. Are we killing more people in an indirect way?
There was a meme I saw on one of the social media platforms that showed a big spike of unemployment, a spike of suicides, a spike of depression on this chart, and it said, let's flatten these curves. And
awesome.
So I think that's right. Hey, good to see you.
God bless.
Thanks so much.
Have a great weekend.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, this is a gentleman who I admire, and I enjoy following his work. Matt Walsh is a Catholic, and he's going to be one of the speakers at a Catholic Family Conference this weekend. And he's also written a book called The Church of Cowards. Okay, there's a subtitle as well. And he's not talking about church leaders; he's talking about all of us, and myself, himself included, myself included. It's pretty easy to be Christians in the world today. So that interview is coming up next here on GRN Live. We'll be right back.
Solidarity Health Share is rebuilding Catholic healthcare in America. We conform to the moral guidelines of the Catholic Church so that you never have to worry about your healthcare dollars paying for anything that violates your conscience. From conception to natural death, we strive to serve all healthcare needs, protect human life, celebrate families, and promote the dignity of all people. Join Solidarity Health Share in restoring and rebuilding authentic Catholic healthcare by signing up at solidarityhealthshare.org, a sponsor of the Guadalupe Radio Network.
Hi, this is John Tidwell, your station manager for Guadalupe Radio Southeast. I want to wish you all a wonderful Easter. We are an Easter people, and as Luke 24 says, He is not here, He has risen. Not only that, 1 Corinthians says, and God raised the Lord, and He will also raise us by His power. So we are an Easter people, and it is time to celebrate what God has done. Thank you so much for your support with prayers and contributions, and may God bless you.
Did you know that there are several ways for you to stay connected to the Guadalupe Radio Network? Visit our website at grnonline.com or hang out with us at facebook.com/grnonline. You can even tweet us. Just search for @GRNonline. And don't forget, you can connect to our email list with your smartphone. Just text the letters GRN to the number 42828. Get connected and be blessed.
Instead of fighting the crowds, isn't it so much easier to hop online and do your shopping in the comfort of your own home? Did you know that you can help the Guadalupe Radio Network when you shop online? All you need to do is shop on Amazon Smile and 0.5% of your purchase goes to the GRN. Just go to amazonsmile.com and select La Promesa Foundation as your nonprofit of choice. La Promesa is the parent company of Guadalupe Radio. It's that simple to give a little extra help to the Guadalupe Radio Network.
Well, welcome back to GRN Alive, and thank you so much for tuning in. I have the opportunity to introduce you to somebody I really respect a lot. He is a bold Catholic, and I love following him on social media, and he's also an author of a new book called Church of Cowards, a wake-up call to complacent Christians. His name is Matt Walsh, popular writer, author, podcaster, and his columns on the Daily Wire have been read by millions. As I mentioned, the book is called Church of Cowards, but the main reason I have him on today is because there is a conference that begins this evening and goes through tomorrow. It's called the Catholic Family Conference, sponsored by Regina Caeli Academy. It's located online at catholicfamilyconference.com, and he is going to be one of the speakers. Other speakers include Bishop Joseph Strickland, Dr. Scott Hahn, Lila Rose, Father John Paul Mary from EWTN, Stephanie Gray, and, of course, Matt Walsh, our guest. Matt, how you doing? Thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah. In the bio on the website, you are described as a you are known for your controversial and provocative insights into culture, politics, and religion. I'm just curious, because this is the first time I've ever talked to you. Has that always been kind of your MO, as being, do you set out to be controversial, or what is your evangelization style? Let's just say that.
No, I don't think I set out to be controversial at all. It's just that, of course, in the culture we live in today, it's very easy. Unfortunately, it's very easy to be controversial. All you have to do really is state the obvious in many cases. And so it's sort of an easy thing to end up being if you're. So it's really not any kind of great insight that I offer. I think it's just, as I said, it's just sort of looking at the culture and stating the obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to thinking as I was preparing to speak to you is that I think, and you'd probably agree with this, the authentic Christian life really calls for us to be somewhat provocative. I mean, in the sense of provoking just means you're seeking a response. Would you think that's true? I mean, is the authentic Christian life provocative by its very nature?
Yeah, I'd say so. In the literal sense that you just mentioned, in seeking a response, as you say, and that is what we want. We want people to pay attention to our message, obviously, and to respond to it. At least to respond to it in some way, know that they're paying attention. But also, we're told repeatedly in the Gospels, Christ tells us that if we stand for truth. And if we follow our faith, we're going to be hated for it. We're going to be persecuted. So we've been guaranteed that. There's no surprises here. And so that there's no way around it. Not just in this culture, but throughout history. We know that if you're a Christian, if you're a faithful Christian, and if you're representing your faith publicly, there's going to be backlash. And honestly, the backlash we suffer in this culture is not nearly as bad as it has been historically, or as it is for many Christians in other parts of the world.
With the conference over the weekend, you're going to be part of a panel discussion with Dr. Janet Smith, whom our listeners will be very familiar with, and also Kevin Wells. I think it's 4 o'clock Eastern tomorrow on Saturday. It's called Combating the Culture. And I find it interesting, and I know you tweet and you comment a lot about this whole coronavirus hysteria that's going on right now. It's interesting, and maybe you can just combat about how the battle in the culture has changed over the last couple of months since everybody has been laser focused on coronavirus.
Yeah, I think it's had a number of effects, obviously. And the first thing that jumps to mind, obviously, when we talk about faith and the coronavirus, is the fact that most people aren't gathering anymore in church. We don't have that communal experience, not to mention the sacramental experience, even more important. But we don't. So there's not that same community. I mean, the community is still there, but it's to not actually have the physical presence with each other. I think makes a big difference. I think there's a lot of people also who feel that have the churches caved too easily to these demands and just shut their doors indefinitely. And so that's been a conversation as well.
Yeah, the book you wrote, again, provocative title, Church of Cowards, a wake-up call to complacent Christians. And until I read the subtitle, I thought, oh, he's, ripping on the bishops or the leaders of the church. And I don't think, in the little I know about the book, I don't think you're just pointing a finger at the leaders of the church. You're really talking about all of us, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, myself included. So my goal is not really to point a finger at any specific person, but really I'm hoping that the book will cause people when they read it to reflect on themselves, just as I reflected on myself as I wrote it. I mean, the fact is, when we talk about cowardice in the church, there's clearly a lot of moral cowardice in the leadership of the church, in my opinion, and I think most devout Catholics would agree with that. But that's the easy thing to do, really, for as far as we're concerned, because that's somebody else. So we can point the finger at somebody else and say it's all their fault. And it is important to hold leaders accountable in any context, especially in church. But the more difficult thing is for me to say about myself, okay, what am I doing wrong? There's a problem of moral cowardice in the church. How am I personally contributing to that problem, and in what ways am I a moral coward? And so that's the conversation I wanted to have around that book, and I think that's the most important thing we can do. Because the other thing is, obviously, there's nothing that any individual can do. If you think that there's a cowardly leader in the church or something, or your pastor that you're upset with, there's nothing that you can personally do directly to make that person change, because you don't have that kind of, you only have that kind of control over one person. That's yourself, obviously. So I think if we start there, then we could really see a change. Yeah,
I had some folks in studio not too long ago who are from Nigeria, and they're talking about the plight of Christians in Nigeria, where I don't know if you're aware of the situation there, where Christians are getting killed all the time, and we hardly ever hear about it. And it leads me to the question, which I think you bring up in the book, is that being a Christian, being a Catholic in America, is like a cakewalk, isn't it? I mean, there's really nothing, unless we go and find the fights, we can just kind of walk through and be pretty complacent, and it's a pretty easy life if we don't purposely make it not so much the case.
Yeah, and that's really the great spiritual danger that we face in our culture, and that's why I think that being a Christian, you could argue that being a Christian in America is more spiritually dangerous than it is anywhere else, or rather, I should say that Christians in this culture face greater spiritual dangers than they do in other parts of the world. Now, the physical dangers, obviously, there's no contest whatsoever. We face very little in the way of physical danger, most of us, as Christians in the West. We can basically go about our lives. We can live our faith. We can do all that, and we're not going to face much pushback. Whereas in other parts of the world, as you point out, in fact, physical persecution of Christians is worse now than it's ever been in history, although we don't hear about it in the media. But the real spiritual danger is just that there is, I think, in some ways, this lack of obstacles, and everything is so easy, so we can just sort of float on the tide of the culture and become very relaxed and complacent and go wherever the culture takes us. And in this case, it floats us right into sin and temptation, and it's very easy to end up doing that. So I think that's the danger we face.
Mm-hmm. Matt Walsh is my guest here on GRN Live, and his book is called Church of Cowards, A Wake-Up Call to Complacent Christians. He's going to be one of the speakers at the conference this weekend. Starts tonight with a Mass. Bishop Strickland is going to be celebrating that Mass. Of course, it's all virtual. You can go and register. My family and I have registered. Matt and I actually have something in common. We both have children at Regina Caeli Academy. They're the ones that are putting this event on. CatholicFamilyConference.com. CatholicFamilyConference.com. A lot of great speakers. And this is... I guess when we're doing things virtually, Matt, it's easier to bring people together. And you see these conferences going on, and speakers that you typically wouldn't see all together in one location. I guess the virtual route does allow for, in some ways, better conferences, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, this is one advantage. I mean, I personally love going around and speaking and things. I prefer to be in person doing it in the physical way with people really there. But there is an advantage here, like you said. I think that getting all of these speakers together for one conference would be very difficult to do if everyone had to physically gather in one spot. So it's kind of making lemonade out of lemon thing. And I know that RCA, Regina Caeli, they put together this conference in a matter of weeks. And I'm pretty excited about it. I'm excited to be part of it, and also to attend it myself and watch all the other speakers.
Yeah. Have you found it interesting? We talk about the whole COVID-19, and that's everybody's just talking about that all the time. But in the meantime, some of these other issues that 3-4 months ago we were really wrapped up in, like the LGBT agenda, that's kind of taken a back seat now. The gender issues, you don't hear much about these anymore. Maybe you do. I don't see as much about it. Father James Martin, you hardly hear his name anymore. Bathroom issues. I mean, do you find that these issues, it's kind of proof that they're not that important, because as soon as a crisis comes, nobody talks about them any longer?
Yeah, that has been interesting. And as someone who's in the media and I'm wrapped up in the news every single day, it's certainly been all coronavirus all the time. No one is talking about anything else, with a few exceptions. And yeah, that kind of makes you think that people are recalibrating their priorities a little bit. And I would like to think that it's even a bit of a permanent change in some ways, and that some of the frivolous things people have gone on about, that there's a change to that. I don't think that'll be the case. I tend to think that once this is passed, whenever that is, we're going to go back to those old fights. And of course, but the thing is that some of these fights you're mentioning are extremely important anyway. But we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah. You mentioned, it says in the release about the book, you're inviting your readers to a faith that's a lot less easy and comfortable, that's more real and actually more, it's worth something. How does one find that faith? That kind of faith? What is your advice in the book? How does it come out that somebody could say, okay, I want to live a more authentic Christian life? Well, what are the steps?
Well, I wish I could boil it down to an easy, one first step, second step type of thing. And I don't think it is. I don't think you can do it quite like that. I think it's a much more complex issue. So when it comes to reclaiming the culture or just individually living a more authentic faith, I don't think that there's exactly a switch that can be flipped. However, the really basic thing that we have to do, I think, as Christians, is to begin by thinking about all of these things that we profess to believe and asking ourselves, and many of them are quite extraordinary and startling even. But I think we can get so used to it that we don't stop to think about the implications, that we don't stop to think about what we're actually saying,
Yeah.
And so, but we should ask ourselves, do we really believe this? And I think there's a number of people who, if they really asked themselves that question and they were honest about it, they would say, no, I don't. But if we do really believe it, then the next step is to look at our lives and say, okay, does this belief penetrate, infiltrate every aspect of my life? and it should, obviously. But I think for many of us, the answer is no, it doesn't. That there are whole parts of our lives that we have kind of put off in a corner in a separate box and said, well, this is impervious to faith. Faith is irrelevant to this, and that's just not true. And so we have to start figuring out what parts of our lives we put into those boxes to keep away from faith, as if the two things can't come together. And I think we have to start there.
Yeah. If you could just take a minute, I think your wife is one of the organizers of this conference. And like I said, you and I both are supporters and send our children to Regina Chaley Academy. The conference this weekend is the Catholic Family Conference, located online, CatholicFamilyConference.com. Starts tonight, so get online and register. Matt's going to be one of the speakers, along with Bishop Strickland, Dr. Scott Hahn, Lila Rose, Father John, Paul Mary, a lot of others, Stephanie Gray. Maybe just spend a minute and talk about why you think this would be a good way for folks to spend some of their weekend.
Well, I think, and first of all, what else do you have to do? You're trapped in your house. But second of all, I think that this is, you've got so many great speakers touching on so many different aspects of it. But really, this is about, navigating the culture, navigating the modern world as faithful Catholics. And it's just a great place to get resources and information. And it's, I think it'd be hard to find a better way to spend, a couple of days. And so I would really recommend it.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Hey, thanks for your time today. The book is called Church of Cowards, A Wake-Up Call to Complacent Christians, and the event begins this evening with Mass with Bishop Strickland. It's going to be a great event, goes through tomorrow as well. You can find the schedule, you can register, and all the speakers and all the information at CatholicFamilyConference.com. Matt Walsh, appreciate your time. Nice speaking with you.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And it is the end of the show. I have three things, Sissel, to talk about before the music starts and kicks us off the air. First of all, we have an after show where you get to hear a little bit more from Sissel, and not just the news stories. So you get to hear Sissel's commentary on the top stories of the news. And Diane joins us for that as well. So that'll be right after the show. Also, do not forget, number two, that today is May 1st. And today is a very historic and important day in the church because the country is going to be reconsecrated to the Blessed Virgin Mary as Mother of the Church. And we're going to be broadcasting the reconsecration by Archbishop Jose Gomez from Los Angeles across EWTN today.
Exciting.
At 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central, which would be, I guess, 1 o'clock West Coast. But we don't have any stations on the West Coast, so it doesn't matter that much. Also, please go visit our new website. It's really beautiful, and there's so much that you can do. And if it asks you where you are and you feel like allowing it to get your location, then it's going to bring you directly to your local station, your program schedule, information, I guess, about volunteering and events and all that kind of stuff. Have you had a chance to kind of check it out yet?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've looked at it many times. There's some great pictures on there if you want to see what Dave looks like if you're not watching the Facebook. Yeah, no, great stuff on there, definitely.
Yeah. And also, you'll notice the image of Our Lady Guadalupe, it kind of slowly zooms in on her. It's almost just real subtle, and that's kind of cool. GRNonline.com. Thank you so much to all of our guests and also to Sissel and Diane. And have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. God bless you, and we'll see you for the after show here in a minute.
Thank you for listening to GRN Alive.
From the studios of the Guadalupe Radio Network.
For more faith, fun, and facts,
join our email list.
Just text the letters GRN to the number 42828. That's GRN to the number 42828.
And may your Friday be filled with the joy of the Lord.
Blessed be God, blessed be his holy name, blessed be Jesus Christ, true God and true man, blessed be the name of Jesus, blessed be his most sacred heart.
All right, welcome everybody to the after show here on GRN Live Friday morning edition. It's May 1st. Today's a big day for the church calendar. It's I just like when a new month starts. I don't know about you.
And May is just an amazing month period.
It is. There's a lot going on. It's a month dedicated to Our Lady, of course. Also St. Joseph. This is his feast day. St. Joseph the Worker. He gets 2 feast days. He gets March 19th also.
That's right.
And of course, a lot of times that one gets overshadowed because everybody is thinking about drinking, the green beer they drank 2 days before that. And
Right.
for some reason, St. Patrick gets a lot of attention, but it's definitely a lesser feast day. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But it is a beautiful feast day of St. Joseph. And we invite you to join us if you're on. I'm actually checking out YouTube and Facebook.
Awesome.
And I think YouTube's a little bit easier to make comments on, would you say?
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
YouTube and Facebook are really easy.
Does YouTube tell you how many people are watching? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Just one person watching. Is that you? It
might be.
might be just you and me.
That's okay.
That's all right.
It's okay.
More people are going to join us. That's all right. I'm not going to let that bother me. But anyways, you haven't really had a lot to say during the first hour because I was talking a lot. Any comments about what we talked about, or do you want to begin the discussion? What do you think?
Let's see. Where do we start though? I really enjoyed our first guest, Dr.
Yeah, he was good.
He was awesome. Definitely. It's a very interesting topic to talk about religious, freedom, especially in this climate that we're in at the moment with the pandemic going on. So I thought what he had to say was very good. He was very fair about, he's not like conspiracy theorists, like they're trying to take a stab,
right.
which, yes, that could potentially, I'm not saying it's never been that way, but it's very fair,
I think that there's always a temptation to sensationalize because the media and what we do, we want people to listen. And the more flamboyant or the more controversial you are. I talked to Matt Walsh about, he's been described as being controversial and provocative. And I said, is that kind of what you try to do? Probably maybe what a good question, because nobody's going to say, yeah, I try to be controversial. I mean, some people may. But I think a guy like Dr. Bunsen, he's very measured, even in the way he speaks. He doesn't... he's not too excitable, and I do like his approach. At the same time, I think sometimes people can just be so bland and so boring, and they're just you don't get anything unique or different out of them. But
yeah, definitely.
I thought it was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was. They're both of those conversations we had today were great. So I was a happy listener.
Yeah. All right, and let's see. I had to kind of pull back a little bit because I'm pretty excited to get back to Mass this weekend. Our parish typically has 2 Sunday morning Masses, 8 and 10:30, and this Sunday they're going to have 4.
Oh, nice.
Because they're going to limit the number of people that go in. And I know that some people that were listening don't have the opportunity to go to Mass, and so I didn't want to...
Rub it in?
Yeah, rub it in, because...
Sure.
But at the same time, it is pretty cool, and maybe the bishops who are opening things up quicker will have an influence on the others. And I also pray that the decision's a good one, that people don't get there and get sick. And I know that's what the other bishops are concerned about. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming your parish is following similar guidelines, but my parish, it's, 25% of the, can be filled, the parish can be filled. And they're going to have a parish hall set up so other people, overflow, can go there.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has to wear masks. They have to do this 6 feet apart from your family. So they're definitely taking precautions.
So I mentioned on the air that Thursday was the day that the email went out from our parish saying that, the daily Mass schedule had resumed with some modifications, and Sunday Masses with modifications were open. So Paula decides, my wife, that she's going. So the email came out at like noon, and there was a Mass at 4 o'clock on Thursday. So she's like, I want the Eucharist. I'm going. And I told her, I said, you may want to get there early because there's going to be a big, it might be crowded. And how many people do you think were at Mass?
10.
It was actually a little less than that.
Oh, really?
She actually took a picture.
I think
underwhelmed. Yeah, there was one family, mom and dad, and I think 2 kids, and there was an older couple, and but there was very little notice. And I'm not judging anybody. I wasn't there. I mean, I had a lot going on that day, but I thought that it might be so much eagerness to get to church. It'll be interesting because they said that in the email that our parish sent out that you might get to a Mass and you can't get in.
Right.
Because there's only, 25% that's allowed to get in, and then you just kind of wait.
Right.
But you're dispensed from the obligation anyways.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So Diane, you're we represent 3 different dioceses. Do you realize that? Diane's Dallas, I'm
Yes.
Ordinariate, and
that's
you're
right.
Fort
Yeah.
Worth. And so
There we
Diane, what are your
go.
plans?
Well, hopefully I can get to a mass, but my concern is like, well, I mean, I'm sure like they'll have multiple masses, like many parishes have several masses throughout the day. So hopefully if I get denied in one, I know the Dallas Diocese is not opening up masses yet,
Yeah.
but in Fort Worth, if I go to a parish there, if I don't get into one mass, then maybe I can
Try
get
for the
into
next one.
Try for the next one, wait around and try for the next one.
When the email came out from our parish saying that they were going to have masses again, I almost couldn't believe it because we kept talking about, when are they going to open it up again? When we're going to have public masses again? It actually happened a little bit sooner than I thought it was.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not gonna lie. I tend to veer on like, let's not be disappointed. I think it's going to be longer. And as soon as I got that email, I had it in seconds, and I had like screenshot it and sent it to all my friends. I was like, guys, mass is coming back.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was
It's pretty
great.
exciting.
Very exciting.
I will say, and I don't know if this is just pride or stupidity or what on my part, but I'm not big on the face masks, and I think some of I'm not sure if the Diocese of Fort Worth is saying you have to wear a face mask. Do you know, is that the
I don't know if
case?
the diocese has said that, but my parish has said that.
They say you have to wear a face mask.
A face mask
Okay.
of some sort, whether it's a bandana or an official medical face mask, some sort of face cover.
Yeah, I have been going to the store about once a week for the last couple of months, and being I'm a journalist, and I like to see how people are responding and all that, and I even went to a store yesterday to pick up a few items. Now, it's curious to see how many people are wearing face masks, and I'd say it's been pretty consistent at about 50%.
Oh, interesting.
And I know some parts
In your
of the
area, right?
yeah, some parts of the country you have to wear them if you go out. I
Right.
think even in Dallas.
No, you do,
because I
yeah.
don't live in Dallas County. I live in
Right,
Tarrant
and I
County.
don't either. But I did go to the local grocery store on my way home from work the other day here in the Dallas County, and I had my mask with me, and I went in, and I think I saw one person not wearing a mask.
Oh, is that
It was
right?
pretty much everyone was.
Okay. All right. So Scott Rogie has weighed in. Scott's a dear friend of mine, and he actually posted. Well, he didn't post. I don't know if okay, maybe he sent me a picture. I better not say that. But he sent me a picture that was interesting. It had to do with the face masks and all that. But anyways, he said face masks are to protect your neighbor.
Yeah.
But here's the problem I have, because I have a dear friend of mine who we are getting into a big debate about this, is that if the face mask is only designed to protect your neighbor, if you've got a face mask on, you're saying that me from 20 feet away from you or 10 feet away from you is going to be able to penetrate your face mask and get into. I don't get it. I don't know how my wearing a face mask, how does that impact other people or not? Unless they decide not to wear one
Right.
also. I don't know. Maybe Scott can weigh in.
I think that's the idea, and also the idea that when you're out and about, just from talking and stuff like that, you're spreading kind of germs. And I think that's the idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a medical expert here.
My friend, who I think has and again, it's not Scott. This is a different friend. It's a female friend of mine. Has even posted saying that she's going to continue wearing a face mask all the way through the flu season, which is like in the fall. And she also doesn't want to be around people who aren't wearing face masks. And she, to the point where she's not going to have any contact with people unless you're wearing a face mask. To me, that's extreme. I don't know.
Does she have like an underlying condition that would make her some stuff?
No. And I don't want to give too many details about her, but she does not.
So Scott was saying that sneezing, coughing, and breathing leaves droplets on surfaces, which is what I thought it was for. Yeah.
And as Dr. Malloy brought up, and my biggest concern, I would wear a face mask for the next 2 months if I thought that was going to be the end of it. But my concern is that the next time, there's a flu outbreak like we've seen, there's always a flu, and
there's something every few
thousands
years.
and thousands and thousands
Swine
of people
flu,
die every single. Are we all going to get crazy and put our face masks on? And I mean, how much? I don't know. I just. To me, I think people are way overreacting.
It will be interesting in future years if something else comes along, how quickly we go back to this, how quickly we fall back into this. You have to stay home for a month, and it will be interesting if they choose to do that, if we choose to do that again.
Yeah. And I think the underlying issue here is how terrified are we to die? I mean, and there are some people even a year ago who wore face masks. There are some people that wear gloves. You ever heard of Howard Hughes? He was the famous mogul. There's a movie about him, and he had an OCD problem where he ended up putting himself into like a a case because he wouldn't shake hands with people. Now, this is an extreme case, okay? And he lived back in the, 40s or 50s or something. The movie... is this true? No. Anyways, there are some people that have OCD and just are so freaked out, germ freaks,
Sure,
And I always tell people, whatever the opposite of a germ freak is, that's me. True. And germ freaks actually kind of bug me. So can you tell?
So you have a phobia of germ freaks.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
I'll put a face mask on for germ freaks.
I fall pretty down the middle. I'm not. Yeah, I don't get super freaked out about germs, but I am conscious of like what other people, because I do have friends who are OCD, and it's more of a very mental. Even though they know they're not like scared of something, they just have a anxiety, which. It's an OCD. It's a kind of a more of a mental thing.
Scott says, death is not the worst thing. We all die. Going to hell is the worst thing. Certainly that's true. And I will say in these people's defense, I have a pretty strong immune system. I've only gotten sick like one time in the last 8 years. I've only missed a day or two of work because of sickness. And so it may have to do with the fact that I personally, but if I get sick a lot, or if I have an underlying health issue, diabetes or something, maybe it might be a different story.
Yeah, definitely. As soon as this started happening, I thought in my head of the people that I wanted to make sure I didn't go around, and that I was just checking in on them, making sure they were staying home and that they were safe, because I knew that they have compromised immune systems, and I was like, you know what, it's okay. I'm gonna make sure I'm not gonna go obviously to nursing homes and things like that now, obviously. But
it's balance. I mean, are the same people who are really, really concerned about health and wearing the face masks, and I think Scott Rogie would fall into this category, because I know Scott. He's equally as concerned about people's spiritual health, and if it's all the temporal, and you're only concerned about the temporal health, and you never talk about heaven and hell and purgatory and mortal sin and the need for confession, if there's a balance there, I can live with that. But if it's all temporal and it's just, keeping yourself alive because you really want to live to be 90 years old, then I have a little bit of a problem with that. So anyways, it's good to be conversing with Scott. Scott's really active here on Facebook.
I appreciate that.
He says he's not
comments.
saying he's in a hurry, but we can take comments.
Definitely. I would gladly take more comments.
All right. So if you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, Diane, any thoughts about this? Diane doesn't get a chance to say too much on the show, but I am pretty opinionated on this stuff. So just turn my mic off.
I'd be interested, especially since Diane, I know, has had some health issues in the past. How do you feel? Because
underlying health issues.
Yeah. Well, I have my immune system is low due to the transplant, but I'm not paranoid about it. I mean, from the beginning, I wear face masks after I had the transplant, but also even now, I wear it to the stores and stuff, but I don't wear it like here. I don't wear it. I pretty much, hand wash and all that stuff, but I'm not paranoid about it.
Right, not going over the top with it.
Not going over the top over it. I'm just, because I already had my little cough spell back in early February, and that was gone. So, but I'm confident that I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, but I do see people in the stores and stuff still wearing face masks. But you just wonder when people will stop.
Well, I do wonder when people are going to stop.
If
even
ever.
After it's like, no longer quote unquote required to wear them out.
It bothers me a lot also. See, I'm bothered a lot. I want to be able to shake people's hands again. I want to be able to our dear friend Olivia came into the office yesterday, and it's just kind of this natural response everybody has. My wife said she ran into a family the other day, and the little kid, who's very, very young, was like backing up from her. And she said, it's so sad that kids are being taught. Now, our 6-year-old, he has, no concept of coronavirus, and he's like climbing all over people. And but I just, that's the other thing. Again, I'm just concerned. I can do without hugging and shaking hands and doing high fives for a while, but is this the new normal? Is this the way that you have to think about shaking hands with people 6 months from now or a year from now, because some people are going to be freaked out by it?
Right. I'm excited to not have to think, am I doing something wrong by getting together with a friend? Just going back to normal things. Like I haven't seen my best friend in person in a while, like most people haven't, and we've been texting. We're like, I want to see you, and I'm not a huge physical affection person, but I'm like, I want to give you a hug.
Yeah. Did you hear about this case, this salon in Dallas, where the lady is, you know about this, right, Diane?
Yes.
Yeah, Diane's a news hound. This salon in Dallas, Because up until today, some of the businesses are opening up today, and
But salons are not.
limited,
That's
but
right,
not
salons
salons.
are not
And
allowed
she,
to,
she basically, this lady, I'll look up the story. She basically said, "I'm not closing."
Wow.
And she's doing haircuts and illegally. But her point is, and she may be right that they don't have a right to shut down businesses every time there's a crisis. And so she's challenging it, and people are starting to gather. And again, you got the people with the guns, and kind of like in Michigan and all that, and supporting her and saying. She's saying, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to arrest me but the problem is they can't put anybody in jail because they're letting that's a minor offense, and they're releasing people from jail.
That's what I do. I'm very confused about right now is how much trouble can you actually get in? You know what I mean? Like, okay, doing something that normally under any other circumstance would not be breaking the law, like keeping your business open or visiting a friend.
She has to pay a fine, I think.
She has to pay a fine? Okay.
Yes, $1,000 fine.
I'm just like, I'm very curious because, you second guess things. Like I've had to a couple times. We do an exchange with someone. I have something that someone else needs, and I drop it off on their front porch or something. They stay the distance, and but you see other people who have friends over and such like that, and I'm like, okay, where does the line end? Are we actually getting in trouble for this, or is it just if you get caught?
Yeah. Let me. Salon a la Mode owner Shelley Luther is daring City of Dallas and county authorities to arrest her after she opened her North Dallas salon last week, despite city and county shelter-in-place orders. She said, quote, "Follow the science. The science is Texas needs to get back to work," Luther told CBS News recently. This week, she was served another court order on top of the $1,000 citation she received last week for refusing to close, but Luther refused to abide by it, saying later that nothing short of arrest will shut down her salon. So,
well, I understand she's not a cosmetologist.
Yeah.
She's just a business owner. Yeah. So she needs the money to pay the rent and stuff. So that's her main concern. And because I talked to a cosmetologist, and she's like, "I'm not opening up until it's safe because I have clients who travel to New Orleans or high risk places, and they're coming back and getting their haircuts, and we're cosmetologists and we have to deal with their hair and stuff, so we can easily catch it." So, but this Shelley lady is actually not a cosmetologist, so she doesn't have interaction, but her cosmetologists are coming in and doing people's hairs and stuff.
Yeah. Did you hear about the mayor of Chicago?
I did not hear. Dave, I locked myself in my house. Well, like everyone else, I've been locked in my house for last week. I'm usually bad about the news anyway. But.
It's related to the other story because Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, a Democrat, defended a haircut she received recently despite salons and barbershops shutting down under the state's stay-at-home order. She was criticized for her actions after previously stating in one of her public service announcements that, quote, "getting your roots done is not essential." The controversy began when the stylist posted photos with the mayor on Facebook last weekend. So her stylist posted the photos, and so there's a double standard. If you're the mayor, and I think she said like, "Hey, I'm a public figure. I got to do press release. I got to do news.
None of us look any better, lady.
Yeah, and so I think I guess President Obama went out golfing the other day.
Yeah, because golfing's considered essential.
Yeah, and Michelle Obama had recorded a message that was sent out to everybody in the D.C. area asking everybody to stay home. And then, according to the news that I read, her husband was out playing golf. And so it does seem to be some inconsistencies.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's the thing is that not only are there inconsistencies what leaders are saying and such, but also I don't know if you've noticed this too, Dave, but like it goes by county, it goes by city. Every city has this is our opening up, phases, and the county says these are our opening up phases, and then the state says I've just noticed that, and I'm like, do I just walk over to the next county line and I can do this and this? Yeah, I'm very confused.
Like the city of Colleyville, I heard is opened up,
right? Today they were opened up 3 days before.
Yeah, so you're right. So there's not a consistency, which maybe that's a good thing. I think Dr. Bunsen was saying subsidiarity means that every diocese can do its own thing, and
that's
rules
true.
are made on the local level.
Right. So I guess I just got to go to whatever area. Oh, I need to get this today or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something I saw, and I don't know if it was a joke or not. I think it wasn't. Is in some state or country, I'm sorry, I'm so vague, it said that grandmothers are now allowed to hug their grandchildren. Did you see that?
Oh.
And I was like, are you joking? Are you really regulating whether family members hug each other. Maybe it was a joke, but some of it's getting a little bit crazy.
Sure.
All right. Well, it's 18 minutes after the hour, and we have covered a lot of ground here. Let's see. I don't have anything else. Anything else, Sissel, on your mind?
Are you sure you don't have anything else left to say? Do you have anything else you want
Any
to
more grievances or anything else that's frustrating me? Nope, I don't. I'm perfectly happy.
Fantastic. I'm trying to think if I have anything else, honestly.
We'll have a show next week. So
That's true, yeah. Anything brilliant that I come up with this week, I'll probably forget by next week.
Yeah, right.
Which means it wasn't that brilliant.
Exactly. Or maybe not that important. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much, Diane. Thanks for a great job on the social media platforms. Don't forget, everybody, to check out our website, grnonline.com. And they got that family conference this weekend with a lot of great speakers, Dr. Scott Hahn and Lila Rose and Bishop Strickland and Father John Paul Mary, Matt Frad, Matt Walsh. I mean, the list goes. Patrick Madrid.
Conferences are taking off.
Yeah, they really are, and it's, I guess, a lot easier. I would only say, here's another one of my grievances. I want them to be live. I want to be live. No,
Yeah.
If you're going to do a
Okay, I see what you
conference,
mean.
don't just put some canned thing up there. I mean,
Right.
I want the person to be live, like our conference last weekend with Deacon
Absolutely.
Harold Brooks
Yeah.
Sivers. A little bit more complicated to do it that way,
And
but
personally, I'll add a grievance to it. I personally prefer conferences in person. I prefer to because for me, a huge portion of going to an event like that is being gathered with other Catholics.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's one of those things where it's like I don't care who the speaker is, as long as I'm get to go with my friends or other fellow Catholics, meet new people.
Yeah, and we get to bump into a lot of people that we know. So, anyways, that's hopefully going to return soon. I want to be awesome, and as we start to be able to get out to events, I think people are going to be so excited about that. All right. Well, Diane, Sissel, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody who is listening. This has been the after show for GRN Alive Friday. Don't forget, there's a replay of GRN Alive on Saturdays at 10 o'clock Central. And we alternate between Joe's Monday show and my Friday. I honestly don't know which one's going to play tomorrow. But I do know that the Monday show will be Joe on 8 o'clock. We're not going to be doing the Monday show.
Thank you. I
We're the
that.
Friday people. And so 8 o'clock Central on Friday morning. Monday morning, Joe will have his show. I think I need to go ahead and sign off.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
We're
everybody.
done.
God bless you. Have a great, great weekend. We appreciate you watching. What's Dave upset about?